All right, I think we are good and live. I hope everything's working properly. If you can hear me, let me know in the chat what you would normally be doing this time on a Friday. I know for me, I'd normally be playing like a corporate gig or some kind of wedding gig or something. But what would you be doing? Would you be eating your lunch? Would you be sleeping right now? If it weren't for, being in quarantine or being isolated or whatever it is, let me know in the chat so I know you can hear me. We've got Joel from Minneapolis. Oh, Minneapolis, you are up early. Whoa. Vivin to be playing with his friends downstairs. Nice. That's a good way to spend some time. Good way to spend a Friday. All right. Now let me see. Can you hear the bass? Ah, awesome. Bass is good. Awesome. Oh, I've got people from how I'm so surprised. So many people from the US, Milwaukee, Minnesota. I'm surprised. I thought you guys would be sleeping. I guess maybe you're up super late, either up super late or up too early. Ah, okay, awesome. Bass sounds good. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So, actually I'm trying to be a bit fancy today on my live stream. Let me know if you can hear this track. Let me see if I can turn it up a little bit. Let me know if you can hear that. Just like a little guitar thing with the ride cymbal. Yep, we've got a yes. Perfect. Okay, we're getting fancy. Getting all fancy. I'm even going to do a little bit of screen share. Sounds just hearable. Maybe needs a little bit more volume. I can do that right there. Okay, sweet. Awesome. So, wherever you are in the world, welcome. Welcome to Quarantine Q&A on Become a Bassist. In case you don't know me, my name's Luke. I run this YouTube channel and a business called Become a Bassist. The whole goal is to bring you no BS bass lessons to get you playing better bass, having more fun, becoming the best bassist that you know you can be, all that kind of stuff. And actually, I've got a new video coming out in, what's the time? About 8.5 hours. So I'll be sleeping. It's all like set up so I don't have to like be up at like 5 a.m. my time. But that's when it's coming out. It's all about walking bass, which we are gonna talk about today. But the video, it's about a separate thing. And like I said, no matter where you are in the world, big warm hugs to you. As I said on the last live stream, it's a pretty wild time we're in. So I hope you're staying safe and well. Hope the people you love are staying safe and healthy and well. Whether you're in Australia like I am, where things aren't quite so bad, or whether you're in Europe where things are kind of going crazy, or the US where things are really kind of picking up over there. And like I said last time, hope you have enough toilet paper because gotta have a clean bum. So hopefully, what we're doing here is, take you away from, endlessly binging Netflix. I'm actually watching Ozark at the moment with my partner. It's better than I expected. It's kind of cool. I'm into it. If you're looking for something to watch Ozark. I'd recommend it so far. I don't know where it's going, but I'm, into it so far. So we're going to take a break from that. Going to take a break from endlessly scrolling Facebook and seeing a bunch of doom and gloom. We're going to take a break from refreshing the news every 30 seconds. I know I've got a bit of a habit to do that, which I'm trying to not do so much, and my partner would definitely be with me on that one. So we're going to take some questions. We're going to take some questions that I got from email that I asked the kind of email list about before, and we're going to take questions live on the stream as well. Wagworn Pifting asks if I'm Aussie. Yes, Aussie through and through. Well, this is something a lot of people don't know. I wasn't actually born in Australia. I was actually born in Scotland. I'm a Scot by birth, but I lived my whole life in Australia. I love Australia. I don't think I could live anywhere else, mainly because I'm too used to the warm now. If I go anywhere cold, it's terrible. So yeah, I'm definitely Australian, although I was born in Scotland. My last name's McIntosh. Like you can't get much more Scottish than that, unless it's like Hamish McTavish or something like that. So let's jump into the first question. This is one I got. Actually, got a while ago. Well, a while ago. I got it on Monday. From someone on the Become a Bassist email newsletter. And by the way, if you are tuning in and you're not a member of the newsletter, definitely head over to becomeabassist.com and sign up for that. You'll get like a free guide. The guide to the modes is like one of the things you can get, but there's like a ton of other stuff. Just go to like any of the lessons there. There's like cool stuff to download, whether it's backing tracks or PDFs, tabs, notation, all that stuff. definitely check out some of the lessons over there if you haven't already. But this first question came from an email subscriber, and they ask, in a walking jazz bass line, how are you supposed to arpeggiate a measure with 2 chords per bar? Most lessons arpeggiate the first 3 notes and then use either diatonic or chromatic approach notes in 4/4. So what would you suggest? So this is a great question. So this person's asking, in a walking bass line, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And if you've got, 1 chord per bar, it's relatively easy to I say that. It's not as complicated as with 2 chords per bar. Let's just say that. So if you're playing like a walking bass line and your chord is a C, I'll just pull that forward a bit so you can see a bit better. There we go. So if you've got like a C major chord, for example, just like a C major triad, you can go 1, 3, 5. Yeah, you can outline the chords like that, and then you can just kind of move that around. So you might go 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, all that kind of stuff. But 2 chords per bar. 2 chords per bar gets a little bit trickier, right? Because you have, half as much time to outline the chord, and that is usually the point of a walking bass line. That's at least one of the primary points. So this is a good question. This is where we're going to get fancy. We're going to use the track, and we're actually going to do a bit of a screen share. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. Look at this. Oh, amazing. Okay, sweet. So in this case, let me know if you can see all this well enough. We've got a super simple chord progression here: C, A7, D minor, and G. So we're getting this kind of thing. So 1, 6 is the dominant, 2, 5, 1, and it just repeats over and over and over again. Now, if you had 1 chord per bar, you could use some walking bass line formulas over these. So that might be like those ones we were using before. So 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 1 of every chord. Yeah, but we can't do that in 2 chords per bar because we've only got 2 notes. 2 notes that we can outline the chords with, and that's it. We don't have any we can't really chuck extra notes in there because we only have 2 to start with. So what are some options that we can do? Well, first option is to take the 1 and the 5 of every chord. Yeah, so you take the C chord here, you play the root, and then you play the 5th. And you can play, so if we're doing it up here, okay, so it could be either the lower 5th, so C, so if you've got a C major chord, actually, let's do a bit of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. G is the 5th of C, but you've got the G above, and you've also got the G below. So here's our C, G below, C, G above, C. So either is going to work. So this one's going to the one below, so let's just do that for now. And we'll put that, put that one there. Okay, so that's supposed to be a 3, not a 5. There we go. So if we're going da, da, C, G, that's a 3. And then our next note is going to be an A, because usually in a walking bass line, we want to play the roots of the chords on, at the point that they change. So it's, in this case, it's on beat 3. So 1, 2, A7, ga, ga, ga. And here we want to play the 5th of an A7 chord, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be an E up there. So this one's going to be, that one there. And then it's going to be that one there. Okay, sweet. So this is what we have so far. Da, 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 da. And then we're going to this D right here over the D minor 7. And da, 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 da. Over this one, we're going to play the 5th of a D minor 7, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It could be the A up there, or it could be the A down there. What should we do? Let's go, that one there. Let's go over here. Let's go below. Right there. And then we'll go, yeah, cool. And then we've only got 2 frets to go from down there to down there. So we've got this. Da, 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 da. And then on on the G or on a G chord, we want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Da, 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 da. It's going to be a D. And on the notation, oh, right there. Okay, so this is where we get even fancier still. We're going to have a bit of a track. 2, 3, 4. So really, really formulaic, very, very structured, and that's, you know, that's all good. But it gets a little bit boring after a while. You don't want to do like the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, because you are going to put people to sleep. So the next thing you can do is actually, let's have a guess. Let's see in the comments. So the software Phil's asking is just Sibelius. It's like an older version of Sibelius. But let's see. We've gone 1 and 5. What are some other options we could put in the walking baseline? So I've just gone 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 5. What are some other options? Some other really, really good options that we can use? Dump them in the comments. First person to get it gets a prize. I'm not sure. I have no prizes to give. I'm sorry. Chromatic notes. Okay. That's definitely an option. I'm going to save those for later because they're a little bit more, a little bit more advanced, because we have to talk about different kinds of chromatic notes and all that stuff. But a very, very good option. We've got heaps of people saying it now. Joshin Kerner says thirds. Joel Shorbert says thirds. Ward Allen, thirds. Man, you guys are killing it. Guys are killing it. Awesome. So sweet. Let's exactly do this. Let's take the thirds of every chord and play them in the second beat. So in that case, we're going to have an E over this one. That's going to be yeah, no, that's cool. Okay, and then this one's going to be a C sharp, so that'll be that one there, and that's going to be over here, and this can be, we'll put that one, what's that going to be? It's going to be a 3, and this one's up here, and then this one, let's put that one down there. Okay, let's actually change this one. Put that G up there. It's going to make a bit more sense. And then that one will go down there. Okay, sweet. So what we have here is like the next version of this. So I've got 1, 3. So over the C major chord, 1, 3, and then over the A major, A7 chord, da, da, and then over the D minor, 1, 3 again, 1, 3, and then over the G7 chord, 1, 3, and then we go back to the C. So with the track, that's going to sound like this: 2, 3, 4. 1, 3. I'm messing up my numbers. One more try. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. Yep. So that's the next step. Of course, at any point along this process, you can do mix and match. So you don't always have to be like one or the other. It doesn't have to always be fifths. It doesn't have to always be thirds. You can mix and match. So you might go 1, 5, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 5, 1. Yeah. So someone's saying the second note for the D minor 7. Where are we? No, that's right. Am I missing something? 1, 3. That's the third. Yeah, that's definitely the third. Okay, cool. So the next step you can put in there is whatever the thing that Vivian said before. Here we go. Some chromatic notes. This is where things get really fun. This is where things start to sound a bit jazzy, like you know what you're doing. And there's basically two different kinds of chromatic notes I want to go over right now. It's chromatic notes approaching from below and chromatic notes approaching from above. Now this one's a little bit tricky because it's not like as formulaic. You have to kind of look in advance and then go one step back. You're literally taking 2 steps forward and then taking 1 step back. So we'll start on a fresh one right here. Now with this, let's go chromatic notes below. So what we want to do is we're going to keep our roots on the change of chords. So C is still going to be here. A is still going to be here, D is still going to be here, G is still going to be here. The notes on the other side, though, are going to change. So we actually want to look at our second chord right here, this A, and we want to pick a chromatic note that leads into that one. So we just said chromatic notes below, right? So we want to go one note below this A. So one fret below this A. So in this case, it's going to be, it's going to be 4th fret here, and you can call that A flat or G sharp, however you want to call it there. Same thing, let's call it G sharp. Cool. So now this G sharp is not in this chord, this C major chord. It's a sharp 5. So technically it's like a wrong note, but it doesn't really matter because we're leading into this note really nicely. Yeah, and it's going to sound like this. Da, 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 da. Yeah, so that G sharp, da, we're in the key of C. La 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 la. Da. So it's technically a wrong note, but it still works. Still works. This is where, you know, the kind of jazzy things sound really cool. Now, so that's our first little bit. C, G sharp to A, 3, 4, 5. The next step is to go from this A, we want to go 2 steps forward, 1, 2, to this D, and pick one note or one fret below this D. So in this case, it's going to be the 4th fret, right there, which makes it a C sharp. Right there. Yeah. Now this is a kind of a coincidence that this actually works out to be the notes of the chords here. It wasn't on the C major 7. We've got like a 1 and a sharp 5, which is not, you know, within the chord. And this one we get an A and a C sharp, the 1 and the 3 of the chord. So this one actually makes perfect sense, and it works really well. So we get this. Da, 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 da. 1 chromatic note below, 1 chromatic note below, 1. And then for the next one, this is going to be a really cool thing. We've got a D. Once again, we want to go 2 steps forward. So on beat 1, beat 2, beat 3. We're aiming for this G on beat 3. This should be up here. There we go. Now we want to go 1 fret below this 5th fret right here. It's going to make it a 4, which is going to make this an F sharp. Now F sharp is a major 3rd over a minor chord. We're getting this kind of thing. We're getting like a tension there, but again, it doesn't really matter. It's on a weaker beat, so it's not as important to, you know, nail the chord tones there, and especially because it leads so nicely into this G right here, it works just fine. And we'll get to playing real soon. And for this one, we're going back to a C major 7 chord. So from this G, we want to go 2 steps forward. It's going to be a C. We want to go 1 step below a C. That's going to be a B, but it's going to be a B down here. We'll make that... Oh, pardon me. There it is. Okay, cool. So it's going to sound like this. Yeah, and with the track... Chromatic note below 1, chromatic note below 1, chromatic note below 1. Yeah, so you get all that like nice juicy chords, nice juicy notes that aren't within the chord. Sounds really cool. Now, Vivin also talked about chromatic notes. Actually, he didn't specifically say, but we've also got chromatic notes above. Yeah, so that can be our next step. Yeah, here we go. So we do the same exact thing. Start on a note, 2 steps forward, and go 1 step back. So we're on this C. We want to go 2 steps forward to the A. We want to pick a note 1 step above that A. So 1 fret above. So if we've got an A, we want it to be a B flat. So that's going to be, actually we'll do it down here. Oh. Right there. This can be a B flat. Yep. So again, we've got a C major 7. It should technically have a B natural in it. 1, 3, 5, 7 of a major 7, but we're getting this note, a B flat. But it sounds really cool. Da, da, da. This one sounds, in this case, I don't know. I really like the sound. Like this walking down to the flat 7 to there. It's really cool. But again, same thing. From the A, 2 steps forward, we want to land on the D, so we want to play 1 note above the D, so that's going to be an E flat. So it's going to be the 6th fret on the A string, and this one's going to be... Oh, that's too low. Oh, there we go. Okay, sweet. So far we have this. And then the next one, we're starting on the D, 2 steps forward, we're on the G, so we want to be 1 step back and then 1 fret above this G. So actually, let's put this G down the octave this time. And that means this one is going to be fret 4, A flat or G sharp, depending on how to think about it. Let's make this one an A flat. And then, same for the G. So we want to start on the G, 2 steps forward. We're aiming for a C. 1/2 step above the C is going to be a D flat. Right there. That's going to be, oh, whoops. The 4th fret there. Okay, cool. So, all up, it sounds like this. This one sounds like really dark, right? Really lots of tensions in the chords. Check it out with the track. 2, 3, 4. Especially that last one. D flat, we're in the key of C. La 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 la. That's our key of C, and we've got this note. Yeah, tons of tension there, but it works really well because we're always outlining the chords at every step of the way. Now, does that make sense? I know we've talked about like a fair few things right there, but if you have any questions about more of this stuff, just dump them in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to go over it. Debayan? I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But would 6 be a good idea? You can absolutely use 6 in your walking lines. You have to be a little bit more careful if you've only got 2 notes per bar, though, because you can end up blurring the lines of actually outlining the chords. So if I wanted to do 6 lines, you'd have to, well, in this case, C going to A, you kind of do want to play the A most of the time, if not all the time, like the roots of the chords. There's definitely specific times where you can, and it's usually like after the song's been going for a while and harmony's been well established. You don't want to like start messing with the harmony like on the first time through the melody, because then people are going to be like, what song is this? What are you guys playing? You know, so it can be a little bit tricky. But definitely you can use them. It wouldn't necessarily work so well in this kind of case. What you could do possibly is... So you could go, if you're aiming for the A, C, A, you can go to the upper A, jump a -6 up to the A flat, and then you could jump down a major 6 to the C sharp, going down to the D, and then a 6 above that, not so much because you end up on either B or B flat, which doesn't put you in a good position to play the G, but you know, it's, you know, very, very, what's the word? I wouldn't recommend it for this kind of thing. Other kinds of bass lines, definitely. But 6 in these kind of ones, you kind of have to be in very specific circumstances for it to work. Now, hopefully that answers the questions. Joel asks, do we need to be careful about premature articulation? Yes, always be concerned with premature articulation. You never want to, you know, never want to prematurely articulate. You never want to get to the root early. It's really tricky sometimes being a bass player in Australia because the word root has a very different connotation for the majority of Australians. Like, you know, if, and the Australians on the call, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but, you know, for all the, you know, non-Australians or, you know, it's basically, what's a diplomatic way of saying this? It's a sex thing, right? You know, you go out on the town and you try and get a root. It's like super crass. It's like a total bogan thing to say. But if you're talking about roots all the time, I always get super self-conscious filming videos and stuff. So I'm always like, oh yeah, and it's always got to be careful about the root. And I'm like, oh, that's good life advice. That is good life advice, mate. Ben's like, nothing good came out of ever being premature. Absolutely, definitely correct. All right, let's move on. That was an in-depth question, and thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. So let's go to our next question. Comes from an email. Now this one. The question goes: I'm a beginner teaching myself how to play bass. Awesome. Is it only me, or is it normal for my thumb on my right hand to hurt very badly and have discoloration like dried blood? Is there some kind of pad, or am I too tensed? My thumb always looks like I've been pressing hard after a few minutes of playing. I continue through the pain. Is this practice normal? No, this is definitely not normal. You don't want to do this. There's this uh, saying, I guess, this pearl of wisdom that there's like no pain, no gain. Like if you go to the gym, there's like signs, no pain, no gain, or like what is it? No discomfort, no expansion. That's my favorite. No discomfort, no expansion. It's like the funny way of saying it. But when it comes to bass playing, when something is hurting, it's usually your body's way of saying that there's something wrong. So you don't want to be hurting when you're playing. So it's really common. I dealt with this myself when I first started teaching. Because I did the same thing. I started by teaching myself to play, and I was like, oh, I don't need a lesson. Jimi Hendrix never had a lesson, so why should I get one? Like just like like really innocent, really naive, idiotic, like cocky, however old, what, like 16-year-old. And I ended up with like really bad wrist problems. I ended up wearing my bass way too low because I thought it looked cool. My left hand was essentially like this the whole time, with this super acute angle in there. And I ended up having to go to a doctor, and he's like, "You need to stop playing bass." I'm like, "No, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to just stop playing bass." So what I had to do is fix my technique and figure out a way where I wasn't like playing like this for like hours at a time. That's a terrible idea. So what you want to do when you're finding yourself tense when you're playing, and I'm guessing the person who wrote this question, they're doing this kind of thing in their right hand. They're like digging in here, like digging in onto that pickup or maybe onto that first string. And I see this a lot. People, if they're like resting on their E string and they're playing on the other strings, you end up like this, and you like see this whole string bending, and it's got to hurt after a while. It's this is this is terrible advice. Pain is weakness leaving the body? Definitely not. Maybe if you're like working out, maybe for a bodybuilder, maybe if you're like trying to do all that stuff. But when it comes to playing bass, definitely not. Horrible idea, horrible advice. Don't ever listen to someone when they say this. I'm glad he put a little smiley face in there, so I know he's joking. But yeah, definitely terrible advice for bass playing. So when you find yourself in a situation like this where you can feel yourself tense, you need to consciously and deliberately eliminate that tension from your playing. So if you're finding like you're getting a ton of tension in here when you're doing this, then you have to consciously lift up that pressure, maybe even hover over the pickup rather than kind of digging into it, just to break that habit. And depending on how long you've been playing and how long you've been doing this kind of thing, this can be a tough habit to break. It's not impossible, but it's going to take some work. It's going to take some work, and it's going to take some time. And things are going to suck. Things are going to suck for a while, because you might be super used to like doing all this cool stuff on your bass. You're like, yeah, I'm shredding, bro. Look at me go. But you're hurting yourself, and you're doing damage to your body that could potentially be permanent. It could even further on down the road put you out of action completely, and no one wants that. No one wants that. I don't want that for you. You don't want that for yourself. So catch yourself in these moments of tension and actually practice whatever you're practicing without that tension, and try as best as possible to make that your default. You don't ever want to have a situation where you're always tense when you're playing. And again, this is something I know from experience, because I used to just be a super tense dude in general, and there's still some of that there. Like I'm not 100% like completely relaxed all the time, man. I still like deal with a bit of tension myself, but it's something I had to really drill into myself, that like just like relax a little bit, just chill, just find your center. And that's I actually trained myself to do this in a big way when I used to drive to university, because I used to drive. It was about a half-hour drive from where I used to live, which was in like a small town in like North Queensland. It's a long way. I'm like, oh man, half an hour. And then I like when I like talked to my partner about how she used to live in Sao Paulo and commute like 2 hours each way. Like it's crazy. Like half an hour is nothing. Ugh, it's nothing. But I used to in my car, I'd have like my two wheels on the steering wheel, and I'd just have these tense shoulders up here, and I'd like be grinding my teeth a little bit, and I just have to teach myself and very, very slowly relax when I was driving. And that was a great exercise because it forced me to, first of all, notice when I'm tensing up and actually do something about it to change things. So that's what I would recommend. If you ever find yourself in a tense spot, try and notice it first of all. That's the biggest, what's the word? The biggest key, I guess, is just having an awareness of it and bringing your attention to it and then actually doing something about it. Actually consciously releasing that tension wherever it happens to live in your body. Guy says, can we talk about jazz soloing how to? Oh, that is a big, big question. So jazz soloing, I mean, that's a where do you even begin? Depending on I'm not sure how advanced you are, how much jazz soloing you've been doing so far. But if you were just starting out, I would have you start on very simple songs, songs like a simple blues, like even like a Herbie Hancock's Watermelon Man, just like long stretches of chords where you're not having to think too much about going through changes. You don't want to go through like some crazy John Coltrane like 26/2 giant steps, moments notice kind of thing where it's like a chord every zero point 0.3 milliseconds. Like that's just going to mess you up. Start simple, and if you can, transcribe people who you like the sound of. For example, if you like the sound of Miles Davis playing over like Straight No Chaser, for example, actually go to your bass and figure out the notes he's playing, figure out how it aligns with the chords. And listening is going to be a huge part of this. The more you listen, the more you are going to absorb the language of the music. Because this is a classic mistake. I've done some teaching at universities in jazz programs, and people think it's all about like, okay, if I've got to play the right notes and then it'll be cool. No, I mean the right notes, quote unquote, the correct notes. It's important to know the right notes to play, but the more important thing is to figure out how the language works, figure out how the rhythmic feel makes a song feel. So like, what's a good example? Okay, so there's like this, I think it's an F. There's this totally classic Charlie Parker solo that starts off like this. Something like that. But like someone plays that, you know that they've checked out the language of the music. And it doesn't even have to be like the entire lick. It might just be like something like that. Like that's a part of the language. What's the oh wait, no. Like that, the lick, like it's a cliche and it's like the lick, but it's actually part of the language. Like it's part of the music. It wouldn't be a bad idea to learn the language of the music from the music itself. And Vivian's saying the biggest key, pun intended. Absolutely. If there's ever a pun, never accidental. It's always claim your puns. Never unintentionally make puns unless they're really, really funny. So yeah, Guy, getting back to your questions. So should I break down other instruments doing solo? Absolutely. That's one of the best ways to learn the language of the music. Transcribe bass players playing walking bass lines to figure out the language of walking bass. In fact, the lesson I'm putting out in about 8 hours time talks about this exact thing. It talks about learning Paul Chambers' lick from So What, the very first one. Yeah, absolutely essential if you want to learn the language of music. Yeah, so it's like the equivalent of not doing this would be like memorizing a dictionary of a foreign language, but then that's all you learn. Yeah, so instead of figuring out how to say full sentences, you just know like broken words. Sure, you'd be able to get through. You'd be able to scrape by if you needed to like figure out where the train station was, or like how to go to the bathroom, or like what kind of meat is this. But you wouldn't be able to have like a deep, meaningful conversation. And it's the same with music. You want to get in there, break down what each one's doing, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that gives you some direction. Like I said, it's a huge question, but that's how I would approach it. Start simple, figure out what the masters of the music are doing. Now let's take some more questions from the comments over here. Okay, this is a good one. Phil, is this Phil that I know? Phil Khan? Okay, I hope so. I hope you're watching, Phil. If so, that'd be awesome. How important is learning patterns for walking bass? I love patterns. Patterns are amazing because not only are they always going to work, but they get you walking quickly. Yeah. So if like pretty much the first thing I give all my like walking bass students uh, is like, hey, just do these things. They're always going to work. I put them in a video called, what was it called? I think it was called Five Plug and Play Walking Baseline Formulas or something like that. Ah, okay, Phil, it is the Phil I know. Good to see you, Phil. And there's like three people I know on this stream, like in real life, IRL, as the young people say. That's really cool. I've got, yeah, Ben and Phil and Daniel Farmer. Amazing. This is so cool. But yeah, so I do think it's definitely important to learn them. It's also definitely important to move beyond them as well, because you don't, like I said, you want to learn the language of the music. So you don't want to be kind of pigeonholed into doing just this one thing the whole time. So if that's all you know, then that's cool. Definitely use it. But as much as you can, venture outside of that as well. And that's where all that transcribing other bass players comes in, learning other walking lines. And there's actually tons of walking bass line transcription books. The Aebersold company puts out a bunch. There's like some Tyrone Wheeler ones, some Ron Carter ones. I think there's a Christian McBride one even, which I'm sure would be amazing. But yeah, definitely learn the patterns, and then as much as you can, move beyond the patterns. Great question, awesome question. Thanks for the question, Phil. I appreciate it. Now, oh, this is a common question. I'm just starting out on bass guitar. I already played the guitar. What do you recommend me practicing learning first? Groove. Groove. Practice groove. Put on something that feels incredible to you. Play along with it. Figure out what the bass player is doing. Figure out how to emulate that. One of the biggest things I always see, like you can always pretty much always tell like a guitarist who is playing bass versus like an actual bass player. And this isn't the every single time, because I know some very musical guitar players. They get up and play bass, and they sound like they've been playing bass for years. So I'm painting with a very broad brush here. But in general, if you're starting out on guitar, starting out on bass from guitar, the thing to do is try and create a pocket, try and create a groove, try and get your rhythm to the point where it's so solid and so just thick and nasty that the whole band can sit in the pocket you're creating and make sure that you feel comfortable doing it. Yeah, the way to do this is, like I said, practice along with recordings that feel really good. And depending on the kind of music you're playing, it's going to change, right? So if you want to play like really deep funk, like chuck on some Maceo Parker and just figure out some bass lines and just go to town on that. Yeah. If you want to play some metal, the groove is going to be completely different. So you want to chuck on, depending on what kind of metal, you might want to chuck on some Korn for like a real clackety clack kind of bass sound, or some like old school Metallica for like a dirty Cliff Burton kind of thing. So yeah, and one thing I'd recommend you avoid is filling every 4 bars. You don't need to do it. And you've probably find that most bass players, when you look at recordings, don't actually do this. They're not filling every 4 bars, every 8 bars. There was a video I put out. When was it? It was a while ago. It was like when you should fill and when you shouldn't. And I talk about Nate Mendel and how he blows my mind at how like well he fills, because he only ever fills like once a song, if that, but it's always like perfectly placed, and it's always like just in the exact right spot, and it feels really good, and it doesn't take you out of the groove. That's the thing. Like a lot of guitar players, they'll play a fill, they'll try and like use some of their guitar chops on bass, and the groove just kind of falls apart, and then it takes like a bar, 2 bars, 4 bars, 8 bars until the groove like resettles again, and then that's like the worst thing in the world. Please don't do that. But thank you so much for the question. This is a great question, and welcome to the world of bass. We have so much more fun than guitar players. I shouldn't say that, but it's true. All right, we've gone like 10 minutes over already, and I'm feeling like I'm on a roll. So let's take some more. Let's take some more questions. Okay. So Pete's asking, what's a typical pattern? Is it as simple as I imagine? Well, if we go back to, let's go back here. So let's go over here for a second, actually, and we'll do this. C major. Okay, A minor, D minor, Oh, whoops. Ah, G. Oh, whoops. Ah. Okay, so make that big. Okay, cool. So with these patterns, all I'm talking about is taking the same idea and then applying it to every chord. So one super helpful pattern is 1, 2, 3, 5 of every chord. So, and you just use the the scale from the chord. So in the key of C, yeah, we've got C. So we just go 1, 2, 3, 5. C, D, E, G. So that would be C. Oh no. C, D, E, G. And then over the A, you just go 1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 5 of the A. 1, 2, 3, 5. And then over the D, same thing. D, E, and then G. We'll take that down. G, A, B, D. And then, if I just do this real quick, this is going to be a bit rough, but... Oh, come on now. Do as I ask. There we go. And then transpose. Cool. So this is roughly... Okay, cool. So this is 1, 2, 3, 5 of every chord. So... 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5 of every chord. And like I said, it's important to learn these patterns, and then of course you want to get beyond them as well. So that's just one. Check out, I've just put the link in to the... Yeah, right here. Actually, can I copy that? I can't copy it. If you just scroll back in the comments of well, it wasn't actually me. I've got someone helping me on the stream. So shout out to Claire. She's doing really well. But yeah, just go to that video, check it out, and you've got a whole bunch of different. Well, I say a whole bunch. You've got 5 different patterns that you can use that are going to help a whole bunch. All right, awesome. Gernot? I'm not sure how to say that correctly. But which program do you use to write these songs? This is just Sibelius. Sibelius 7. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's a paid one, but if you want a free one, MuseScore works really well as well. I'll just grab the link up for that one because it's totally free. It works super well. So if you're looking for like a free notation software, check it out. Works on Mac, works on PC, works on everything, and it's amazing. Now this is a good question. I have a very cheap bass and I change the strings and set up the truss rod, the bridge sails, and the intonation. No fret buzz at all. Okay, I think that was an answer to a question from before. From Daniel. Can you demonstrate a good height to have your bass for the best results to have an even technique? I don't think that was what that was a response to. But yes, I can definitely do this. Now, in general, I was saying before, I'm not sure if you're new to the stream, I was telling the story before about how when I first started out, I like played with my bass too low and it had like a super gnarly bend in my wrist. Bad news bears, don't want to do that. So in general, you want to have your bass at a height where it's... Actually, I'll just get rid of this question so you can see my bass properly. In general, you want to have the bass at a point where you can sit it on your knee, and then when you've got your strap on and you stand up, it doesn't move too far from your body. Yeah. So where it sits, when you sit, it should be roughly the same place where you stand up. If not the exact same place, at the very least, you don't want to have it kind of slide down your body. You don't want to like stand up and then have the bass go like this. Yeah, you don't want it to slide down your leg too much. You want to have it roughly in that kind of, in that butter zone. Having it higher is fine, because all you have to do is just kind of go like this with your left hand, or your fretting hand if you're, left-handed. So that's not a problem at all. The problem is when you go too far down and you get like these like real nasty things in your wrist. Definitely don't want that. Let's take a couple more questions from the comments, and then we should call it a night because I need to have dinner. I've got some red Thai curry waiting for me, and I'm hungry. My partner's laughing. She can hear me. Okay, cool. Bob Eberlein. Good to see you. Bob's one of my students in a couple of programs actually. So good to see you, Bob. Awesome to see you here. He's from Leicester, I believe. Now, this is a good question from Max. Does it work to boil your strings? Yes, it does. I'm not sure why. I think it just kind of like releases all the grime and like all the stuff that gets on your fingers and then ends up stuck on the strings and makes the strings sound dead. Yeah, so I used to do this back when I was a poorer student, and it totally works. It definitely works. You can only really do it once though. You see like greatly diminishing returns the more you do it. So I tried to boil my strings twice, one time, and it was pretty rough. They sounded good for about a day, and then they crashed really hard, and it wasn't worth the effort to like get another couple of hours out of them. So you can do it once, and it's fine. Any more than that, and I find that you have, you know, definitely diminishing returns. Uh, Julie says, I don't speak French, but I do know that parler is like speak. Française is French. So I'm not sure. Maybe she's asking me if I do speak French. Not really. Je m'appelle Luc. It's about like the extent of my French. I can speak more Portuguese. If you ask me to speak Portuguese, I can do that, but French, not so much. But thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Here's a good question. So 7 months in, I practice up and down the neck, major and minors, thirds and fifths, and one finger per fret. I can do tabs as well. Am I on track, or should I be doing more? That's a very personal question. That's up to you. If you feel like you could be doing more, then do more. I'm not sure what your situation is right now, whether you're on like complete lockdown or self-isolation or, you know, but for a lot of people, we've got a lot of time on our hands at the moment. So it's a really good time to start building skills and start doing all that stuff. As far as what to practice, that's going to be up to you. So, you know, if you feel like you have, you know, you're weak in your technique area, for example, you might, you know, come up with a regime to really focus on your technique. If you feel like you need to learn more songs, then you can do that. You can figure out, okay, let's try and learn 3 songs a day, for example, or 4 songs a day. If you want to get really adventurous, you can do like 5, 6, 7, 8 songs a day. Try and learn a whole set in a day. If you if you want to start to learn how to read, that's something you can absolutely learn to do as well. But yeah, I can't answer that without knowing more information. But if you feel like you can be doing more, then by all means, absolutely go for it. I'm never going to say no to playing more bass and learning more stuff, because I'm always trying to learn more stuff. It's good. Always be trying to learn more stuff. Pardon me. Ooh, I need some water. Yes. I did say this in the comments before I started. So Jochin asked about slapping basics. Okay, so they're tudo bom, Ives. She's yeah, all the Portuguese stuff. Eu aprendendo agora. Não tenho muito palavras agora, mas eu aprendendo. But anyway, slapping basics. So there are like I'm gonna paint with another really broad brush. There are 2 basic kind of schools of thought when it comes to slapping at the moment. Okay, this makes more sense now. You speak too fast. Rob, good to see you here, Rob. Rob's another one of my students from Canada. Is a member of a couple of my programs actually. So awesome to see you here, Rob. Thanks so much for staying up because I know it's late there. But back to slapping basics. 2 main schools of thought when it comes to slapping. There's the kind of Victor Wooten double thumbing and enabling kind of technique, and then there's the like go for it, go hard, or go home, flee kind of slapping. So let's go through each one, and I'll actually get rid of this so you can see properly. So the way that I first learned to slap was the flee version. So your hand kind of goes down. What's a good way of doing this? Maybe like that. Your hand kind of goes through like here, and you're just getting your thumb, like for me it was my knuckle there, that first knuckle, and then just. The tricky part about this is that you have to be very good with your muting. Yeah, so if you aren't muting with your left hand, you can end up with this kind of thing, where you get like the A string and the E string at the same time, or the A and the D, or maybe just like a whole bunch of them, which isn't great. So you have to be very diligent about muting strings in your left hand. So it's not so bad on the E string, because you can avoid it with your right hand by simply going like this. Hopefully you can see that I'm kind of angling up and away from the bass rather than into it, because if you go into it, then you run the risk of doubling strings, which is not what you want. So that's the kind of first, really at the basic level, that's the first technique. And there's also, of course, there's the slap and there's the pop. And the pop, you can use either the index or the middle, or maybe a combination of both. Maybe even the ring finger if you want, although I probably wouldn't recommend it. And that's all you want to do with that is get underneath the string and pull up and away from the bass. Now the trick with any slap is to get a really solid slap sound, you want to have enough force that the string actually hits against the frets right there. That's what's going to give you the really percussive slap. Yeah? And actually, let me back up for a second. So you can do it with the index or the middle, and you really have to get in there sometimes. And how much meat you have on the string is going to affect a whole bunch of stuff. So if you just have just a fingertip on the string, it's going to enable you to go a bit faster, but you're going to have it's going to be maybe a little bit less accurate. So if you have more kind of finger under the string, then the chances of missing a pop are going to be less, but it's going to slow you down a little bit as well, probably. So you want to find a nice balance between having enough meat on the finger, trying to get in there. And by the way, slapping is really not my thing. I don't really do it that much in the course of my regular gigs. I used to be super into it when I was maybe just coming out of my teens. Maybe I was like 19, 20. But I kind of lost interest in it, I guess, when I just never really used it. So yeah, I'm a bit rusty on my old slap stuff, but that's totally fine. Now the other way of by the way, you can slap the E string, you can slap the A string, you can slap the D string, you can slap the G string. Oh, pardon me, like that. You can also pop the G string, and the D string, and the A string, and the E string. It's not like E and A have to just be with the thumb, and then the D and G just have to be with the fingers. You can mix things up if you want. In general, that's usually what's going to happen, though. That the E and the A are going to be within the purview of the thumb, and then the D and the G are going to be in the purview of the index and middle, or just the index or just the middle, however your technique ends up falling on that kind of spectrum. But you're not kind of limited to either or. Now that's the kind of flea slapping. So all that kind of stuff, which again, not really my thing, but that's that's how I first learned. The other one is the kind of Victor Wooten, the one that enables you to double thumb and do all that kind of stuff. And that's instead of having the thumb being kind of perpendicular, they become parallel. And you kind of drop the elbow down a little bit, and then you end up doing this. So for example, if you're slapping the E string, you're slapping through the E string right there, landing on the A string underneath. If you're slapping the A string, oh pardon me, you're going to slap the A string and land on the D string underneath. Same with the D string. Oh, keep muting the strings with my left hand. Just like that, and then you can do the same thing on the G. The disadvantage of that is you have nothing to kind of land on there, so you just kind of have to go. Yeah? So, and the popping in the kind of Victor Wooten style is roughly the same. It's maybe, because you're dropping the elbow down, you end up coming at the strings at a bit more of an angle, but it's still like... It's like still a thing that you can totally do. But of course this lets you do the whole double thumbing thing. And that's where you have a downstroke with a slap, and then you have an upstroke. So you get underneath the string here, and you can actually get a nice slap sound going up as well. So you're getting underneath the string. I'm not sure if you can see that. So I'm actually under the string here, and then going like that. So you can go. And that's something I've never really put the time in to kind of do really well. So that's, it's definitely possible. But again, slapping is not really my thing. I hope this helps out at least a little bit. because okay, he's saying thanks. Perfect. And we've got some French in the comments as well. Awesome. Okay. So this is another question. Do I have any videos of playing in a band live or recorded? I absolutely do. In fact, I have an album I can send you the link to. You can download it for free on Bandcamp. Check it out right there. And I've actually got like a second YouTube channel, just Luke McIntosh. I've got like videos, and I haven't put anything up on there in a while, actually, like years. But yeah, there's videos up there. And actually, I think I had a discography of like stuff I've been playing. Actually, I can show you some more recent stuff. Here we go. I'll drop a couple of links in the chat that you can check out. My buddy Logan has this drum channel where he plays with like some pretty big name country artists, and he just gets his thing that he's been doing recently is getting acoustic versions of like these popular songs and then putting like a full band on them. So the first one he did, at least the first one he did with me, was Sarah Bareilles' Love Song. It's just like like an acoustic version of her playing the song, and we just added bass and drums. And the first one we did was in person. Like I ran to his house and we like hung out. We recorded the song, did a couple of takes, and then came back to it. And then we ended up having sushi, which was fun. And that one is the one I just pasted in the comments. And then the second one, we've been doing everything remotely, and that's been really fun. So he gets the track, and it's really cool actually. He plays the drums over it, but he also like is acting like a musical director. So he'll be like, "Stop coming up, 3, 4, stop." He'll be like, "On the one," and like it's just in my headphones. Like it doesn't come through on the actual recording. And so I'll record my bass part, and I've got like my little GoPro set up over here, and I'll like film it. So yeah, I do that, and then he has the bass and drums, and then he sends the bass and drums over to someone else, guitar player. They record their parts, so it's all remotely. We haven't ever actually met and played the song in person, but it sounds like as if we have. It's like really really cool, and we're putting more out very very soon. Is that one? Okay. There's actually one coming out. Okay. There's the exact same time that my next video is coming out. So Logan's been stealing my upload schedule, and I've just put that third one in the comments right there. This is another good question from the same person, Panagiotis Revolis. I'm sorry, I'm definitely butchering that pronunciation. Did you post a link with tab for the best positions for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5 exercise you played? Check out the video. It goes through all that in like excruciating detail. So definitely check that one out. Al! Oh my goodness, there's so many people that I know on this stream. We need, yeah. So Al, IZ Rover, his real name's actually Al, and he's a super super cool dude. He's a photographer, and not too long ago, actually it was a while ago now. It was like a couple of years. I got a call for someone from this lady named Kate. This is a really cool story. So this lady named Kate, she rings me up, and I'm like, hi. I'm like, hi, I'm looking for someone to write and arrange for symphony orchestra. And I'm like, I'm not qualified for that. And she's like, no, it'll be super easy. And like, she convinced me to do it. And I had no idea what I was getting into. And what the Legend in the Locals tour is they take a well-known Australian artist, and they go around to these regional centres that wouldn't ordinarily get like big name artists. So places like Blackall, where did we go with that one? Hewenden, Collinsville, like places you'd never like show up on like a major map. And they like do a whole bunch of stuff with communities there. So they put on a big concert, but they also collaborate with songwriters in the region. And what they wanted to do for this particular tour was have like the school symphony bands in every place they go to, have arrangements that they could play of this artist's song with them. So Kate's like, I want you to do that. And I'm like, sure. So I dove into it, and it ended up being kind of different for that one. So it was with an artist named Sarah Storer, who's like a fairly big name country music artist here in Australia, and it was just like 2 songs that I like wrote and arranged for a symphony band. But then a bunch of places didn't actually have a symphony band, so it ended up turning into, okay, we'll do that, but then also write arrangements for choirs. And so at this point I have like no experience writing for choirs or symphony bands, And eventually, it turns out that they not only want me to write, but they want me to like go on the tour and do all that kind of stuff and conduct the bands a lot of the time. So I was like, oh, yeah, sure. So I just kept saying yes to all these things that I felt super unqualified for. But it ended up being super fun. I learned a ton. I did it again. When was it? Last year? Last year with an artist named Troy Casadele, who's like an even bigger name still. And I ended up somehow ended up being like managing that tour, which was kind of surreal. But yeah, it's so good to see so many people that I know on this stream. So thanks so much for tuning in. I've already gone half an hour over, so I think that's a good time to call it. But thank you so much for tuning in. This has been like heaps of fun. This has probably been my favorite one yet. So well done for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. Once again, like the biggest hugs, biggest warmest hugs from wherever you are in the world. Well, from me, from where I am to wherever you are in the world. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're washing your hands. Stay home, save lives, all that good stuff. Yeah, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all you tuning in. It makes me feel really good, and I hope I've made a difference at least in your Friday as well. So I'll talk to you really soon. Yeah, I love you all. I'll catch you later.